Ron DeSantis demands Ilhan Omar is thrown out of Congress and deported following speech declaring she is Somalia first as she faces calls to resign. Yo, this was wild. Did you guys see the speech from Ilhan Omar?
She's nuts.
She's basically
literally insane.
She's talking to a bunch of Somalis saying, our president, my country, things like this, saying that we're going to fight for our country. And people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like she is speaking like she is not an American citizen.
We are going to invade Kenya.
Yeah. People were talking about how in the past she's been bullhorning saying Somalia, my country, and then corrects herself. So Ron DeSantis, he's got a tweet. He said, expel from Congress, denaturalize and deport. I just got to say, this is like, I don't know how you describe it. What Ron DeSantis said is more politically, what's the right word for this?
Fiery? Spicy?
Yeah.
Politically charged.
Spicy than what maybe anyone has said in politics. The sitting governor of Florida called for stripping a U.S. citizen of her citizenship and sending her back to the country she claims to have allegiance to.
Look, dropping out of the race was a great thing for him. He's feeling more confident. He's feeling fiery.
Yeah, he's like, my political career is over.
The expulsion definitely needs to happen, though. Ilhan Omar has done this over and over. She's constantly embarrassing the United States. Ironically enough, the Democratic Party, they're crazy to even have her aboard at this point. And you know that some of the neoliberals would like to see her gone, but she's an ethnic female. She practices Islam. They don't want to touch that with a 50-foot pole. They don't want to lose their clout. It's
not just that. It's that Ilhan Omar represents a very Somali district. Mm-hmm. So she has local.
Yeah, she's untouchable. Exactly.
Yeah, they're going to keep voting her in. There is potential competition for her from a more conservative perspective. If you got someone who is like Muslim Somali, but they were conservative, not progressive, I think they would win. But you'd still have to have someone basically preaching to the group of people that they represent Somalia and not Minnesota. But that's where we're at. So anyway, Ron has, as you said, it was very good for him to drop out of the race. I wonder what would have happened if he said things like this while he was running. Perhaps he should have.
His support probably would have risen if he had said something like that about Ilhan Omar.
Yeah,
I think so. I think that this is sort of more fiery than he was because the big accusation was that he didn't have a personality.
Yeah, he was sort of.
Turns out he does.
He was sort of a limp noodle at times when he was running. I think he was trying to like counterbalance himself against like Trump's mean tweets or something like that, and it just didn't work.
What could you imagine what Trump supporters would be saying if Ron DeSantis tweeted this? Would they be forced to defend Ilhan Omar? Just to be an opposition to DeSantis?
Some of the real hardcore influencers would have you believe that. I would have laughed my ass off.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure.
I feel like if he had tweeted stuff like this, it would have left the door open to him having a position in the Trump administration. Whereas then things got too tense. There's too much. There's too much that's happened now. Whereas if he had said stuff like this, they would have felt more aligned.
I think there's still a possibility DeSantis ends up in the Trump administration.
What do you think he'd do?
I could see him as being in the cabinet. Maybe not as running mate, because again, well...
And they can't both be from Florida, right?
He's a little bit... I mean, if he's making tweets and shit like this, then he's too charismatic for Trump to have as a running mate.
Right. I got to be honest. I do believe that there's a handful of Trump personalities, Trump supporters, where if Ron tweeted that while running, they would say, oh, come on. I mean, like, we're all critical of Ilhan, but the idea of stripping someone from their citizenship is fascist.
Oh, yeah.
Ron is a fascist. Now they're going to be like based.
There would be some Trump support. There are always going to be a few hardcore fans who get cognitive dissonance, of course.
No, yeah, of course.
I would have
Ron should have said this.
I'd have been like, yes, Ron.
Break from your cocoon. Become who you were meant to be.
Trump, you have found your running mate.
Because where does he go from here? I feel like I ask this every other day, but, you know, I feel like...
He's going to start a podcast on Rumble.
He'd make more money.
He's going to join us here on alternative media. He really
You should try to get Ron DeSantis aboard.
Well, his campaign banned their staff from appearing on the show.
But what if he comes to our regular Tuesday event?
You know, it'd be funny. Like, could you imagine?
Why would they have bad blood with your show? This would be like the natural place. Ron would fit right in.
They thought Tim was too Trumpy.
And we're friends with some of the, like Will Chamberlain worked for him, and Will's a good friend, and he's been on the show several times. But there were attempts had been made. We can't reach out to their people, and they were just like, they kept saying no. And then we got word that basically the DeSantis campaign said, do not go on Timcast IRL, which is the weirdest thing. I think
they would have gotten more votes if they had.
They would have. And I think what happens is they were getting advice from, like the Ken Griffin types, these establishment rhino, stodgy uniparty guys.
Lindsey Graham gave him a call.
Yeah. And they're like, go on CNN, go on cable TV. The podcasts aren't real. And then look at Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek saw Vivek was probably sitting there and he was like, Ron's doing everything wrong. I'm going to do what he should do and it's going to work. And it did. He was never going to be president. I told Vivek this, and we had him on the Culture War show earlier last year. And I said to him, I'm a fan of Vivek. He's a great guy. I said, I don't think you're going to win. I would like to vote for you in the primary, but I think Trump's going to win anyway. And he's like, well, look, I'm running. We'll see, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, come on. A first-timer, young guy with no political background at 0% is very, 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 very unlikely to win a GOP nomination, especially with Trump running as an effective incumbent. I think anybody who thought anyone else was going to beat Trump in this is delusional, except when Vivek said they are going to stop at nothing to remove Trump. In which case, I should stay in this as long as I can. The crazy thing is, dude spent like $30 million of his own money. What was the number? Was it 30 million? I know he sold.
I think it was more than that, actually.
Yep, of his own money trying to maintain this. I respect it. And then what did he do once Iowa came up bad? He bowed out and endorsed Trump right away. Masterfully played. Ron could have done all of that and Ron didn't. But I just want to say this. How hilarious would it be if after the election, Ron DeSantis is termed out. He's done. He doesn't run. He just comes out and he's like, I'd like to thank the people of Florida, the good people who supported me as I was your governor. I now want to say go to rumble.com/Ron DeSantis to watch my new show where I talk about stripping immigrants of their citizenship and deporting them back to their home countries. We're going to build the wall. And then it just goes totally off. And he makes this Graper Rumble channel. And he's just super, we're going to build the borders for funding gone.
I've always wondered why people, when they get so much money and so much clout that clearly, they've got a continuing career, they'll always be able to pay their bills, but none of them ever go crazy and start doing crazy stuff and saying crazy things, or only very rarely. And it's actually a mystery because you could get even more attention doing that. And it's like you could corner the market.
Listen. This is why I want everyone to go to factsrap.com, FACTSRAP.com, and buy Tom McDonald and Ben Shapiro's song. I really do mean it. Talking to these guys, seeing where they're at, it's looking where they're at. It's looking really, really good. But there's a reason why I want Ben Shapiro to hit the Billboard Hot 100. It's like you're saying, people don't do crazy things. It's all stodgy, routine, and boring. Nothing is shocking the system. Nothing is waking people up. We got to get a little weird with it. Like Frank Reynolds in It's Always Sunny. He's old. I mean, for those of you that have seen the show, he's an old guy. He's super rich. And he decides to live in squalor with these degenerate bar owners. Because he's like, I only got a few years left of my life. I want to get freaky with it and just do weird stuff. I'm not saying to literally, have everyone be degenerates. But one thing I've often said is, you got a lot of powerful, influential people on our side who believe in freedom, liberty, meritocracy, responsibility. They're not spending their money doing anything. They'll go on their shows and they'll say stuff like, it's so bad that I see Joe Biden doing this. Man, we got to get out there and vote. Good thing. I'm glad they're doing it. And then they'll be like, so make sure you go to my website, cornstarch.com and buy the cornstarch. And I'm like, it's fine. Sponsorship supports the show. But outside of being a firebrand and a preacher for good issues, what are people doing to actually invade, we're not going to win a culture war by standing on a hilltop screaming. You have to actually try and seize territory in culture and physical reality. So I get frustrated when I see prominent individuals who become extremely successful in news media podcasting, and then they just sit down in their chair and they do nothing. They're like, I'm good. I've seen people stable off. They're like, well, I'm making good money right now. I'm going to do nothing else. And I'm going to work a couple hours a day. And then I'm going to go sit on the beach all day. And I'm like, man, it's like once they got comfortable and they got money, they said, I don't want to move from this position. I want to see people with these big shows being like, I'm going to work 20-hour days, 16-hour days, and we're going to win this culture war. We need more of that.
If Ben Shapiro and Tom McDonald get to the Hot 100, do you think they'll release a remix featuring Ron DeSantis?
No.
I think that would be the funniest thing.
I do want to say this. In essence, we've already won that cultural battle. And it's one that, Carter and I have been fighting for over a year now, because it's not just about politics. It's about how the industry keeps out anyone who's not a part of the club, just in general. So they change the metrics. They say, oh, we don't count this anymore. We don't count that, because they don't like the fact that independent individuals can build something to challenge the establishment, the woke establishment, and their narrative control, and take over. It's going to be real funny. I mean, it already is funny that Ben Shapiro is the #1 rapper in the world on iTunes, but it's going to be real funny when he hits that.
He rapped.
He doesn't. He just talks fast,
It
so he
seemed
did a
pretty
song.
good though.
Yeah.
It's this year is already off the hook.
Yeah.
We're only in January.
But again, this is why, for one, Tom McDonald has been putting out a bunch of really amazing stuff for a long time, challenging the culture. And it's funny what they say. They're like, here's a guy who looks like a drug dealing gangbanger, and he's rapping against this stuff. And I'm like, duh, that's the point. That you do not have to combine the style, the looks, the aesthetic with being a criminal. You can be a good person and try and look a certain way and have fashion. So every time he's been getting big hits forever, they block him out. They lie. They create reasons as to why he shouldn't chart, why he doesn't deserve to get written up about. And this guy, Tom McDonald, has got numerous songs, just all of them hitting like 10, 20 million, or not all of them, but a lot of them. And you get people in the industry now acting like they don't know who he is. The reality is they know who he is. They do not want any of us to be able to supplant their machine. But I want to let everyone know the good news. The digital media industry is in free fall. Absolute TechCrunch just laid a bunch of people off. By this time next year, it's going to be nothing left but us. So we're winning, and I'm glad to see it. And what I'm hoping for now is, with things like Public Square, we're now seeing the expansion of these Public Square-esque companies that believe in American values, sponsoring more and more people in various industries. It's about time these big companies that are on Public Square find some musicians to sponsor, find some athletes to sponsor, find some drivers to sponsor. I saw a pro athlete at Nitro Circus wearing a Public Square shirt. Nitro Circus is people on BMXs and rollerblades and skateboards doing backflips and scooters. That means you've got little kids hanging out in the audience, and they see a big Public Square banner. Travis Pastrana, I think he might be on Black Rifle. That's us winning and dominating. We have to build things. So it's silly, I guess, to be like Ben Shapiro's the #1 rapper. We need more than that. More than coffee companies. Every podcast in the world selling coffee nowadays. But what we're doing, we've got a physical location being built right now for our coffee shop. The club will probably be open in a few months, so much sooner than the actual coffee shop. We're going to be doing the live show on March 5th at the Cast Brew Club in Martinsburg, West Virginia. So the goal here is to build physical locations where people can meet up. And then you don't need me to sit here in front of a camera and tell you what to think. You guys can go talk to each other. Long story short, people who are successful in this space need to build things and work 10 times harder than they are.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that sort of sit on their laurels. I mean, look at even, and this might not be an example you'd even agree with, look at Howard Stern, for example. The man spends the better part of 2 decades fighting against censorship. I mean, out of self-interest. It wasn't out of any major ideological principles. Then once he gets his break, he's got the contract signed, he's got all the money in the world. Well, bye. He just goes off and starts becoming boring.
Exactly.
And already gets fired, although he was on heroin, so that sort of.
I mean, look at Jimmy Kimmel, the Man Show, having women jump on trampolines.
There are a million memes about his hypocrisy.
Yep. Too many people are grifters, and the funny thing is, the left likes to call people anti-establishment people grifters, as if it's easier to be anti-establishment, as opposed to being protected by the censorship machine. We were talking to Steve Baker yesterday, a journalist who's being they're trying to criminally charge over January 6th. He said there were 3 journalists who were together and went into the Capitol and filmed things. One of the guys worked for a local news outlet with a big local news outlet camera, and he filmed a bunch of stuff. The other guy filmed on his phone. The guy who filmed on his phone released a report for the New Yorker calling them insurrectionists. No charges. Or I think, what happened? He didn't get charged at all. Right?
Or he got very light sentence, if anything.
I think he got nothing, he said. I think he didn't get charged. I think they were just like, oh, you're good. And then the guy with the big news camera got, what did he get, 8 months?
Yeah.
And he comes home to his news station saying, like, I got all this footage. And like, great. Then they cut him off and stopped talking to him. And then they raided his house and arrested him. Despite the fact he is a credentialed member of the press with a press camera with journalists filming. That's the game. So for all these people like Howard Stern, they know who butters their bread. They are weak, pathetic individuals. And that's all they've got is I will do whatever you say. They're Anakin Skywalker, getting all this great power and then dropping to their knees for the Emperor and saying, I will do whatever you say. I don't want to lose what I got. Cowards.
No. I mean, I think that's why you were saying before, some of these people who come off campaigns, why don't they do something bolder? And I always think it's because ultimately they want back into the machine. They aren't sure if things are over. And that might shift now. I mean, you guys would be better able to gauge this than I would, given both of your careers. But because alternative forms of content and media have really become dominant, they're not just something some people are doing, they are actual viable careers. Maybe we'll see a difference now. But I think that risk of not only am I going to lose potential income sources, but also I'm going to lose my position where I have influence scares people from doing anything bold.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, if you create an infrastructure in which like non-woke individuals who don't have a problem with edgy content or something dissident, something that goes against the grain, if they engage in business making and so forth, and then reinvest in other people too, you can create sort of a lexicon of income, of support, in which you don't have to have that sort of self-censorship anymore, because you've got sort of the platforms, etc. You've got like new tech, you've got like Rumble, BitChute, etc. You've got people who are capable of investing, and they will expect a return on investment. And then you have people who give them that return, and it's sort of just a reciprocal process.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.